All right, thanks a lot, Kent. Appreciate everyone being here. Obviously, a very exciting day for us as we get to crank up the 24-25 season. I think it's been a terrific offseason for our program, from player retention to our recruiting class to the coaching staff additions that have been made. It's been very productive for us, and now excited to get to take the floor together for the first time this afternoon.
Hey, Coach. You mentioned the recruiting aspect. Obviously, the freshman class you have coming in being highly touted. Just what has impressed you so far with that group, and just what is your first impression?
Yeah, I think, Matthew, with the freshman class, you look at 3 top 60 players in that 24 class. Curtis Givens, has been everything we were expecting at the point guard position. Just rock solid, consistency, relentless worker, and he's shooting the ball exceptionally well from 3. Victorious Miller, another very talented guard with good size at 6'5". I think he has great IQ and feel for the game, can score in a variety of different ways. And then, also a very good playmaker. He's been one of our tops in assist-to-turnover ratio in the workouts this fall. And then Rob Miller, almost 6'11", 7'5" wingspan. He's done a terrific job with Coach Chapman in the weight rooms, gained about 20 pounds. He's up around 228, 229 now, and really talented. I think you and I talked about him when he signed. He's not a back-to-the-basket, old-school post player. He's very skilled. He shoots it well from 3, is going to be a really good player, but he also provides shot blocking with his length and athleticism around the rim.
Yeah, hey, Coach. Just you guys welcome in 7 new players this year. Obviously, another big kind of overhaul with the roster. Just how have you gone about maybe this offseason of getting those players integrated with your philosophy, your other players that are returning? Because that's a pretty big piece, obviously, of kind of how you want to build this thing this season.
No, it's great, Glenn. I mean, I think you look at it, there are really 3 different areas of the program that we've discussed where player retention, obviously very important. Then the transfer portal and the freshman class I just discussed. What we've tried to really do a good job of is we just want to use the transfer portal where there's an immediate need, and I don't want large numbers there. So I'm really pleased with the 3 that we brought in, Cam Carter, Jordan Sears, and Jai Bailey, all 3 impact winning. They had, I think, a combined 46 or 47 points a game of production last year. And so excited about those 3. But as far as trying to combine those 3 different areas into one, I think the weight room, the addition of Coach Chapman to our staff, he's been fantastic there. I think that's where you get a lot of your toughness and adversity that your players face. Obviously the court, but then I think the time you spend outside of basketball. It's still important. I know the game has changed, but it's still college basketball, and chemistry matters. So team building events, whether it's going to Topgolf, going bowling, tailgating together as a team, I think all those things go a long way toward developing and building the trust of the squad.
Coach, you talked about all the new players that you have coming in. Sort of, how important is the coaching staff, specifically a guy like Tasman Mitchell, who's been there and done that with this program, was on the last team to make the Final Four? How important is he in sort of integrating those guys into the team and into the culture here in Baton Rouge?
Well, I think when you talk about Taz, the first thing that comes to mind for me is the incredible pride that he takes in those 3 letters across the chest. Obviously going to the Final Four as a player, he's the 3rd all-time leading scorer in the history of the school. This university, this state mean a lot to him, and I think he's able to share those experiences with our players. It gives them an opportunity to learn from somebody who not only had success here as a player, but as a professional. So I think he's been very impactful in those areas.
Hey, Coach, maybe it's too early to tell, but just
Starting 5?
I was going to say,
okay.
What's kind of has any kind of identity emerged for this team? Like, how do you guys feel that you're going to play? What are you going to hang your hat on, I guess?
Well, I love our team. I think when you look at them, there's great talent. through the portal, through recruiting, through retention. I really like the construction of our roster, but really the work ethic and the coachability stands out to me here early in the season. You look at guys like Jordan Sears and Cam Carter, who took advantage of every opportunity to be in the gym at 5 in the morning with NBA players like Garrett Temple all summer. I thought that was incredibly impactful for them. We had Garrett Temple, Collis Temple III, and others, Keith Hornsby, David Fleshman, come back and do a former player symposium with the team. And basically we had slotted 30 minutes there, and it ended up being 2 hours, just sharing life lessons, what it means to be a player at LSU, helping them prepare not only to have great careers here, but as professionals. So I think a lot of those building blocks and foundational pieces have been set in place this summer, and that has to be how hard you play, how you compete, and the unselfishness with which you play.
This team has made tangible improvements in year 2 last year. Where do you think this program is right now?
Well, I'm fired up about the direction. Obviously, the first year was incredibly painful and difficult. But you look at last season, the way we were able to finish, great wins over really good programs, to get into a tie for the top half of the SEC with what I thought was a really good Texas A&M team, and then to transfer that into success on the recruiting trail and roster construction. We'll add another really good recruiting class this fall. I think there's a great energy and excitement around the program. And, as I said last year, we were excited with the circumstances in year 2 to get to the postseason, but we certainly didn't come here to LSU to play in the NIT. And so continuing to build the habits and discipline and the winning culture that'll be necessary to get to the NCAA tournament will continue to be a huge goal for us.
Coach, you said around the end of last season, it's important to do the little things correctly. How important is it now to come out the gate doing those little things as y'all go into the season?
Well, I think every game, the value of every possession, we talk about a lot. There's a great Brad Stevens quote: when considering the consequences of not doing the little things, you realize there are no little things. And, when you look at our resume in SEC play last year and the quad 1 wins that we had, it was good enough to play in the postseason, as in the NCAA tournament. But we didn't do what was required in November, December to be in that position. So I think it's really critical for us to build the team chemistry early, to be prepared to have success early in the non-conference portion of the schedule. We have some really good games there that'll be great opportunities for us.
Just how are you guys health-wise, I guess, going into this kind of start of preseason? And then I have one more question after that.
Okay, Glenn, really healthy overall. Noah Boyd, our last signee in the spring, the 7-footer, is probably a month away from being cleared, coming off his ACL injury. Had that repaired early last December. So we want to make sure we get him back to 100%. Coming off that injury. Otherwise, for today, Jai Bailey, transfer from Richmond, is questionable with a little minor toe deal, and everyone else is fully cleared and ready to go. Damian Collins, I thought had a great offseason coming off the shoulder surgery that ended his season. He's been fully cleared now since middle of August, and I'm really pleased with his progression. I think he's got a great mindset going into the season. He's a once-in-a-lifetime athlete. I'll never coach anyone else like him. So I want to see him really take advantage of his athleticism and his skill level to have a breakout season for us.
And then I did want to ask about Corey Chest, the guy who obviously redshirted for you guys last year. Just what kind of improvements have you seen from him this offseason, and what kind of role do you envision him having in the team this year?
Well, those two guys are really key, the red shirts from last season, Damian, who I mentioned, and then Corey. Corey has a unique ability to rebound the basketball. Don't really know how to coach it or teach it to do it at the level he does. It's just a natural way he plays the game. So I thought he really took advantage of the redshirt year, gained 20 pounds in the weight room. He's been incredibly productive in our workouts, especially on the glass. I love his versatility defensively. Glenn, he's a guy who can guard 1 through 5 on the floor. And, expect big things from him. He's not a guy that's shooting threes, but he just, at the end of the day, you grab the stat sheet after practice, and he's been very productive, and he impacts winning, which, as you and I know, is the most important thing. And he has one of the highest winning percentages on the team here in the summer and fall.
With being a coach at any level, you have a lot of unseen responsibilities. And how much pride do you take in developing and mentoring the student athletes on this team? And how surreal must it be to be able to watch them grow as a player, but most importantly, as a man off the court?
Well, I think if you're in it for the right reasons, that's why you coach. I know there's an expectation and a standard to win games, to maintain the platform, but that's the beauty of the platform. You're able to provide opportunities to players, and then if you're doing it right, you get to invest your time, energy, and effort to help them become the very best they can be on and off the court. LSU provides the best platform in the country to do that. It's the greatest brand in all the sports. We have high character players, and really that's one of the things I'm excited about this year. Guys like Jalen Reed, Tyrell Ward, Derek Fountain, it's their third year in the program. They took jumps into year two. Now, what kind of jump can they take going into year three? Jalen Reed's a guy, he's at 252 pounds, and he's moving better than he ever has. I mean, it's just invested all in this offseason, and now you want to see him, because he's put so much work into it, enjoy the success on the court. But it's a great question. It's really what I enjoy about coaching, is seeing players come in and develop. To Glenn's point, it's why we don't want to just live in the portal, where we just take a whole new team every year. I love recruiting a player for 2 and 3 years, building that relationship, and then watching them grow on and off the floor once they get here. And when you look at this freshman class, Curtis Givens, Rob Miller, Victorious Miller, and even Corey Chest now in that class, those are 4 guys that I called my first 2 days on the job at LSU. So there's long-standing relationships there, and really excited for all 4.
Coach, Mike Williams had a breakout freshman year. What do you expect to see from him in year 2?
Well, it's a big offseason for him. He shot the ball exceptionally well from 3. I thought he brought great toughness and competitiveness to our team. He had to grow up faster than he probably intended to, going from the 2-guard position to the point guard position last November and December out of necessity. But I thought you saw once we got into league play and he was able to settle into, I think he finished 38% from 3. It was right there on the edge of making the all-freshman team in the SEC. So I think he's about all the right things. Winner, tough, wants to lead. And I think that's a question that hadn't been touched on, but I think that's a big question we have to answer as a team right now as we start the first day of practice. Who's going to emerge as the voice, as the leaders in the locker room? I think that's going to go a long way toward determining our success this year.
Coach, I wanted to ask about Tyrell Ward. Obviously made big improvements last year just in terms of taking a bigger scoring load.
Right.
Do you feel like this year he's ready to step in and be like a top 2-3 scorer for you guys? Like, what have you seen from him this offseason?
Yeah, I think he put in the work in the spring and summer to gain some weight. I think you've seen a little thin in this league at 6'7" on the wing. Has gotten up to around 200 pounds, has really invested well there. In league play, I believe finished 3rd in the SEC in 3-point shooting, averaging double figures last year. So I think it's a big 2 months for him coming up. These 42 days going into the season opener to continue his development as a player, not just as a catch-and-shoot 3-point shooter, but finishing plays in transition. He knows he needs to take big steps on the defensive side of the ball, not to veer off task, but we're moving the program forward. But if you look for a weakness last year, we really struggled defensively on the perimeter. And we tried to be very intentional there. Curtis Givens, terrific defender. The 3 portal guys we signed at the guard position. Jai Bailey was a top defender in the Atlantic 10 on the championship team there at Richmond. Cam Carter was an elite defender on a top 20 defense at Kansas State. And then Jordan Sears, his physicality and ability to guard the ball at the point guard position, I think is an area we've really tried to address on the perimeter. And Tyrell needs to be a huge part of that as well.
You talked about not only player development, but person development on your team. You guys have been involved in a lot of community service throughout the offseason, even today, going around on the golf carts and things like that. How much of an emphasis do you put on that in team meetings and things like that, getting involved not only with the team, but with the community at large and the student body?
Well, I think it's really important. It's what an unbelievable privilege. And this is the start of my 25th season in coaching today. I can't believe it. It's like living a dream. And our players have worked their entire life to earn this opportunity to put on the LSU jersey and play for one of the great programs in the country. But there's a lot more that goes with that platform that they've earned. And I think it's important to give back, to be involved on campus and in the community. As we continue to build the program and want to capitalize on the momentum of the wins late in the season last year. The two best wins I know I've been a part of on our home court since I've been here were number 9 Arkansas after Christmas a couple years ago, and whatever number 15 or whatever Kentucky was on the win, Tyrell Ward at the buzzer. A couple things that were real common about those two games that were the biggest crowds we've had. It was the best atmosphere. It was the most electricity in the building. And I thought it created an incredible home court. And so we want to be invested on campus in the community, continue to recruit at a high level, and get people excited about filling up the PMAC this upcoming season.
How has Trey's Green situation worked out, and what should we expect kind of how that all works out this year?
Yeah, he's all football right now. Was really proud of him getting his first touchdown reception in the home opener there against Nicholls State. But all of his attention and focus will continue to be on football, and expect LSU to make a deep run into the postseason, and then we'll address it from there at that point.
Yeah, Coach, just kind of looking at this team, it seems like one of the bigger question marks is kind of at center, just, with Will Baker and Hunter Dean both graduated. Has anyone kind of emerged there? Is there a front runner to start there?
Probably a long answer. The game has changed. I think the days of needing to have 6'11", 275-pound bruiser down there, the way the game is played, are gone. I think Jalen Reed's done a great job. He's certainly not a center by any means, but at 252 pounds, 6'10", I think he's very physical around the basket. You look, there's a lot of length and athleticism in the front court. When you start talking about Damian Collins, Derek Fountain, Rob Miller, Corey Chest. So it might look a little different as opposed to basketball in the 90s where you had two centers down there in the paint. But I think it opens up a lot of spacing opportunities for us on the offensive end, and will allow us to play at the tempo and pace of play we'd like to.
Yeah, Coach. Jordan Sears obviously scored the ball a ton, top 10 in the country. Has anything about his game surprised you, or maybe opened up more?
Yeah, he's kind of built like the honey badger. He's quick, he's athletic, he's incredibly strong. But I've really been impressed so far with his mentality. I think we talked when we signed him. He's the only player in the country last year, 650 points, 140 rebounds, 140 assists, 75 threes, and now he's making the jump into the SEC. And he understands what comes with that. But I think just the work ethic, as I tell him all the time, he didn't come here to spend his last 8 months of college basketball to learn how to shoot or to learn how to pass. He came here to develop his mindset as an elite point guard, and that's where I'm going to continue to challenge him every day.
As you mentioned earlier, you've been experiencing a lot more success each year you've been here. And kind of talk about what are like the key important factors into establishing a winning culture in the SEC, and what are your expectations for taking that next step this season?
Yeah, we have a blueprint in place. I think winning culture is what you said. Every organization has a culture. So it's a very overused word, but it's really about what goes into it. And we've tried to really establish a foundation of hard work, unselfishness, toughness, and accountability. that we feel leads to a lot of joy when you have the privilege of playing at a place like LSU. So I think, it's just the daily habits. It's nothing earth-shattering there, but I am very process-driven, and I think the discipline and habits that we can build within our team will allow us to get better and to be more consistent, which will obviously lead to a more consistent standard of performance on the court, which is the ultimate goal.
Coach, just a lot of changes kind of behind the bench this season. Just can you kind of talk about what went into that and what those new coaches bring to your staff? Did you feel like you were lacking in any kind of area there last year?
It has nothing to do with lacking. It's just trying to move the program forward and keep getting better, and I couldn't be more excited. Went 3 for 3 in our coaching hires this spring. No-brainers. First was Coach Chapman coming over from Stanford in the weight room. Very experienced. He's had multiple NBA lottery picks throughout his career. Understands the sports science, also the sports psychology of it. Has already paid huge dividends in our player development program. Coach Jalen Courtney Williams, certainly going to be a star in this profession. Coming over from Sweet 16 and Elite 8 appearances at Creighton. He's been around winning. He's been around elite coaching. I think he does an incredible job in relationships with the players, and will do a fantastic job for us. And then David Patrick, who's been a head coach. He's experienced Elite 8s out of the SEC. Another guy who's had first-round draft picks, the number 1 pick in the draft. He's one of the most well-connected people in the profession. And I can go on and on about all three. But when you hire, you want to hire new ideas, you want to bring new energy to the program, new experiences, new voices. It's been really good for me. I've learned a lot from all three, and really excited to have them here.
You mentioned some of the length and athleticism you guys have in the front court. How much of a, deliberate approach was it to kind of get some of that in here, to kind of get the tempo where you wanted? I know this was a team last year. It was top 25 in pace and top 20 in free throws. Just how much of this thing is going to be driven by the speed at which you guys play this year?
Well, Glenn, when I look at our personnel, that's how we want to be. We want to be a very up-tempo team. I know everyone says that in every opening press conference, but that's the way we want to play. We have a proven track record of playing that way at a very high level and a very efficient level. And so we want to recruit to that. You have to be able to shoot the three in today's game to have the floor properly spaced. But I think when I look at the construction of our roster, it really would not make a lot of sense to walk the ball up and down the court and be a half-court, grind it out, try to win 52-50 team. I think we need to really take advantage of our speed, athleticism, and length to play in up-tempo on both sides of the basketball. And I think that's the most fun way to coach. I think players enjoy playing that way. I think it really makes a huge impact when you can recruit to an NBA style of play. And I know the fans love it. So I think we have great opportunities there to build an explosive offense with our team this year. Got to limit the turnover. So we were almost 80 points a game a year ago. And if we can cut down some of those turnovers, I think it'll benefit us very well.
Anything else? All right, let me
Scott.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
do we have one more? I'm sorry, Scott.
Yeah, just your thoughts on being part of a now 16-team SEC. Obviously, it doesn't get easier for anybody in any sport, but what's your thoughts on that, and where do you see yourself in it?
Yeah, I think it's great for the league. I love that we've been able to expand but still be a regional league. I wouldn't want to be a part of being an East Coast school that's plays on the West Coast all the time or vice versa. So, it's the greatest slogan in sports that fits so well. It just means more here in the SEC. It's a great footprint with the school locations. I think it does nothing but enhance the league on the basketball side. You look the last 2 years, 8 teams each year getting into the NCAA tournament. I think you'll see that go to 10 teams this year. So I think it just creates even more opportunities to get quality wins, playing against the depth of the league, and put yourself in a position to get into the NCAA tournament. You don't have to be perfect either. When you get to league play, you look 2 years ago, Arkansas was the 10 seed in the SEC tournament, and they went to the Sweet 16. Last year, I believe Mississippi State went 8 and 10, and they got into the NCAA tournament. So I think it just speaks to the great depth in the SEC.